The desert base breathed with a rhythm all its own. At 0500 hours, long before most would consider the day truly begun, Sarah Martinez was already deep in her world of precision and maintenance. The weapons range was her sanctuary, a cathedral of controlled violence where every firearm told a story of potential and restraint. Her fingers traced the barrel of an M4 carbine, catching the faintest hint of dust that had somehow escaped her. Previous cleaning, most would see just a weapon. Sarah saw a complex mechanism, a tool that demanded respect, understanding, and absolute precision. Outside, the Afghanistan morning was beginning its brutal transformation. The mountains in the distance stood like ancient sentinels, witnessing countless conflicts that predated any current military presence. The base itself was a modern intrusion into a landscape that had seen empires rise and fall, warriors come and go. Sarah's background was as complex as the weapons she maintained. Her father, a retired Army sergeant, had taught her more about firearms before her 10th birthday than most soldiers learn in entire careers. But it wasn't just about mechanics. He'd instilled in her a profound understanding of responsibility, that every weapon was a potential lifesaver or a potential instrument of destruction. After 2 tours as a military intelligence analyst, Sarah had transitioned to civilian contracting. Some saw it as a step down. She saw it as a different kind of service. Here, she ensured that every weapon was more than just functional. It was perfect. The base was a carefully orchestrated ecosystem. Special forces operators, intelligence personnel, support staff, each played a critical role. Today's rotation included a Navy SEAL team preparing for a sensitive reconnaissance mission. Their weapons would need to be absolutely flawless. Sarah's routine was almost meditative. Each cleaning motion was deliberate. Each tool had its place. The gun oil scent mixed with the desert's dry air, creating a perfume unique to military installations. She knew every serial number, every slight variation in the weapons she maintained. The morning briefing had been routine. Low-level insurgent activity reported in the surrounding regions. Standard operational parameters. Nothing suggested the day would be anything more than another precise, controlled military exercise. But battlefields have their own logic, and fate rarely follows briefing notes. Her phone buzzed a message from her younger brother, currently stationed at another base in the region. "Stay sharp today," it read. She smiled, thinking it was just a typical sibling check-in. If only she knew how prophetic those words would become. The first signs of trouble were subtle. A slight change in radio chatter. A tension in the air that experienced personnel recognized instantly, something military training called operational sixth sense. Sarah's hand paused mid-cleaning, her body unconsciously reading the environment's shifting dynamics. Then came the sound, not quite an explosion, more like a deep, resonant punch against the fabric of morning silence. In that split second, everything changed. The weapons range, moments ago a temple of careful maintenance, transformed. Sarah's hands, which had been delicately cleaning a precision rifle, now moved with a muscle memory born of intelligence training and inherited military instinct. Dust billowed. Alarms began to scream. And the carefully constructed world of routine. Military operations shattered like fragile glass. Sarah Martinez wasn't just a contractor anymore. She was about to become something entirely unexpected. The first wave of insurgent attack was moments away. And nothing, absolutely nothing would be the same again. Jack Rodriguez knew death intimately. As a Navy SEAL with multiple deployments, he had danced on the razor's edge between survival and annihilation more times than he could count. But this morning was different. This morning felt like a knife's edge, sharp, dangerous, unpredictable. The first explosion had been more than just a sound. It was a declaration of war. Tactical communication systems erupted into a cacophony of urgent voices. Coordinates, enemy positions, estimated troop strength. Jack processed the information with the same calculated precision he'd used throughout his 15-year military career. This wasn't a random attack. This was a meticulously planned assault. Intelligence reports from the previous week flickered through his mind. Chatter about a potential coordinated strike. Whispers of a new insurgent leadership that had been recruiting disaffected local fighters. Rumors of advanced weaponry making its way through underground networks. Jack's team had been preparing for a critical reconnaissance mission. Now, preparation transformed into pure survival. He moved through the base with a predator's grace. Each step calculated, each movement purposeful. The other SEALs in his unit were extensions of his own body, a living, breathing tactical machine. They'd trained together for years, survived impossible scenarios, become something more than just a team. They were brothers. The base's defensive systems began to respond. Automated turrets swiveled. Reinforced barriers descended. But Jack knew technology was only as good as the humans controlling it. His mind raced through potential scenarios. The insurgents had chosen their moment perfectly. A rotation of troops was in progress. Supply lines were being reconfigured. It was a moment of calculated vulnerability. Through the chaos, Jack's eyes caught a glimpse of the weapons range. A woman, Sarah Martinez, he remembered from the morning briefing, stood amid a collection of meticulously maintained firearms. Something about her caught his attention. Not fear, not panic. Something else entirely. Another explosion rocked the base. Closer this time. The insurgents were moving with a level of coordination that suggested more than just local fighters. This had the hallmarks of professional military planning. Possibly foreign-trained operatives. Maybe even state-sponsored intervention. Jack burst through the door of the weapons range, his tactical gear covered in dust and grime. A cut above his eye told of a near miss from the initial bombardment, but SEALs didn't have the luxury of nursing wounds. His eyes locked with Sarah's. In that split second, something extraordinary happened. No words were necessary. Professional. Assessment replaced traditional hierarchical boundaries. Jack saw not a civilian contractor, but a potential asset. "We're under heavy attack," he shouted, his voice cutting through the building cacophony of conflict. Sarah didn't flinch. Didn't ask unnecessary questions. Her hands were already moving, understanding precisely what needed to be done. Jack began, gathering specific weapons, not standard-issue equipment. These were precision rifles, long range, designed for surgical strikes in complex terrain. Each weapon selected with a purpose that went beyond standard military engagement. The insurgents had made a critical mistake. They assumed vulnerability. They didn't understand that within this base was a collection of the most highly trained warriors on the planet. And Jack Rodriguez was about to make them regret that assumption. "I need someone to spot," he called out, his eyes scanning Sarah with a tactical assessment. Years of combat had taught him to read people instantly. Potential, skill, psychological, resilience. Sarah's background whispered in the background of his assessment. Military intelligence, analytical mind, precise skills. Not a typical civilian contractor. Someone who understood the mathematics of conflict. The base shook with another impact. Smoke began to fill the corridors. The carefully maintained order of military installation dissolved into pure, concentrated chaos. Jack knew they had minutes, not hours. Minutes to turn the tide of what could become a complete massacre. "I can help," Sarah responded. No tremor in her voice. No hesitation. In that moment, two worlds collided. A Navy SEAL, a weapons maintenance specialist. The line between civilian and combatant blurred into irrelevance. Survival would be an art form. and they were about to become its most unexpected artists. The real battle was just beginning. Time compressed into something both eternal and instantaneous. Sarah's world narrowed to a razor's edge of pure, calculated focus. The weapon's range once, her sanctuary of meticulous maintenance, had transformed into a strategic command center. Jack moved with a predator's efficiency, selecting rifles that were more than mere tools. Each weapon told a story of potential devastation, engineered for precision that bordered on surgical art. His hands worked with muscle. Memory developed through countless missions in the world's most unforgiving theaters of conflict. Mk-11 Mod 0, he muttered, pulling out a precision rifle system, modified to extend our effective range. Sarah's mind was already calculating wind speed, atmospheric conditions, terrain complexity. Her intelligence background wasn't just a line on a resume. It was a complete, operational system now coming alive under extreme pressure. The base around them was dying. Not literally, not yet, but the carefully constructed military ecosystem was being systematically dismantled. Explosions created choreographed points of destruction. Smoke billowed like living entities, obscuring and revealing in violent rhythms. Jack's initial assessment of Sarah had been tactical. Now, watching her process the incoming tactical data, he realized she was something else entirely. Not just a contractor, not just a former intelligence analyst. She was a raw, unrefined weapon waiting to be deployed. "Talk me through what you see," Jack commanded, not asked. Sarah's eyes scanned the terrain outside. The mountains that had stood as silent witnesses to countless conflicts now became their tactical map. Her mind transformed geographical features into strategic advantages and potential kill zones. "Eastern Ridge," she began, her voice clinical. 3 potential ingress points. Minimal cover between Point Charlie and the secondary communication tower. Wind coming northwest at approximately 12 kilometers per hour. Will cause slight deviation for long-range shots beyond 800 meters. Jack paused, looked at her. A veteran of countless missions hadn't expected this level of immediate, precise analysis from a weapons maintenance specialist. The insurgent attack wasn't random. This was a calculated strike designed to penetrate multiple defensive layers. They had studied the base's routines, understood its vulnerabilities, planned with a level of sophistication that suggested professional military planning. But they hadn't counted on Sarah and Jack. "Your background," Jack said, not taking his eyes off the developing tactical situation. "Military intelligence. 2 tours. Tell me more." A rapid-fire exchange of information. Sarah's history wasn't just a biography. It was a tactical profile. 2 tours as an intelligence analyst specializing in threat assessment and geospatial intelligence. Graduate-level mathematics. Advanced training in threat modeling. The weapons she had maintained for years were no longer just machines. They were extensions of a complex mathematical equation of survival. Jack began setting up a defensive position. Not just any position. A kill zone that would transform the attacker's advantage into a fatal miscalculation. "I need you on spotter duty," he said. It wasn't a request. It was a deployment. Sarah's hands, which had spent years cleaning and maintaining weapons with microscopic precision, now gripped the rifle with an intuitive understanding that went beyond mechanical familiarity. This was muscle memory meeting pure intellectual calculation. The first wave of insurgents appeared like shadows against the rocky terrain. Professional, coordinated, moving with a discipline that suggested more than local fighters. 3 individuals, Sarah called out, moving tactically. 875 meters northwest ridge, attempting flanking maneuver. Jack's response was instantaneous. Each shot was more than a trigger pull. It was a mathematical solution. A precise elimination of a potential threat. The base's other defenders watched in a mixture of shock and admiration. A civilian contractor and a Navy SEAL, turning what should have been certain defeat into a potential victory. But this was just the beginning. The insurgents had planned for a massacre. Instead, they found an unexpected wall of resistance. A human weapon system that defied all traditional battlefield logic. Sarah's hands never trembled. Her eyes never wavered. In that moment, she became something more than her job description. A warrior forged in the crucible of immediate survival. Jack's respect grew with each passing minute. This wasn't about defending a base anymore. This was about proving that heroism has no job description, no predetermined script. Outside, the battle continued. But inside the weapons range, a different kind of war was being waged. A war of precision, of unexpected partnership, of survival redefined. The mountains continued to watch, silent, unchanging, waiting to record another chapter in humanity's endless conflict. And Sarah and Jack were about to write their own. The human body wasn't designed for this level of sustained intensity. But Jack Rodriguez and Sarah Martinez existed beyond human limitations now. Hours melted into a liquid state of pure tactical consciousness. Each moment became a high-stakes mathematical equation where variables constantly shifted. Wind speed, terrain complexity, enemy movement patterns, ammunition reserves, potential rescue timeline. Sarah's mind transformed the battlefield into a living, breathing computational system. Her intelligence background wasn't just training, it was a weapon more precise than any rifle. Incoming quadrant, she called out, her voice a razor-sharp instrument of tactical communication. 2 technical vehicles. Modified Toyota Helix, estimated 7 combatants. Heavy machine gun mounted on lead vehicle. Jack's response was instantaneous. Not just a reaction. A calculated solution to a complex problem. The modified Mk-11 rifle became an extension of his nervous system. Each trigger pull was a carefully computed trajectory of destruction. Not murder, survival. Their defensive position wasn't random. It was a meticulously engineered kill zone that transformed the weapons range into a strategic stronghold. Reinforced windows, multiple line-of-sight options, ability to shift positions rapidly. The insurgents had planned a conventional assault. They expected standard military resistance. Instead, they found a hybrid warfare system that defied traditional combat logic. Sarah's mathematical mind began tracking patterns. These weren't random local fighters. The attack demonstrated sophisticated planning, coordinated movements, precise timing. This suggested something more dangerous than a typical insurgent operation. Analysis, Jack demanded, not asked. His eyes never leaving the tactical situation. Sarah's response was instantaneous. Coordination suggests professional military planning, potential foreign training, likely state-sponsored intervention. Movement patterns indicate specialized urban warfare training, possibly ex-special forces operatives. Jack processed the information with the same computational efficiency. This wasn't just an attack. This was a potential test of military capabilities. A probing strike designed to expose vulnerabilities. The base's defensive systems were being systematically challenged. Communication networks disrupted. Automated defense mechanisms targeted and neutralized. This was a surgical strike designed to create maximum chaos with minimal initial resource commitment. Their partnership transcended traditional military hierarchy. Jack saw Sarah not as a civilian contractor, but as a critical tactical asset. Her ability to process complex information in real time transformed their defensive capabilities. Another explosion rocked the base. Closer this time. Eastern Communication Tower is compromised, Sarah called out, her fingers dancing across a handheld tactical computer, correlating multiple data streams. They're attempting to isolate our communication capabilities. Jack's mind was already 3 moves ahead. Insurgent tactics typically followed specific progression models. Isolate, disrupt, penetrate. This was stage 2 of a potentially multi-phase assault. The weapon's range had become more than a maintenance area. It was now a critical defensive position that could potentially turn the entire engagement. Sarah's hands moved with a precision that bordered on machine-like efficiency, selecting ammunition, calculating wind drift, adjusting scope settings. Each movement was a micro-calculation of potential survival. 67% probability of secondary assault within the next 17 minutes, she muttered, more to herself than to Jack. He understood. These weren't just numbers. These were potential lifelines. The insurgents had made a critical miscalculation. They assumed vulnerability. They didn't understand that within this base was a collection of warriors who redefined the very concept of resistance. Jack's communication with other base defenders was limited, but that didn't matter. They were creating their own defensive ecosystem. A living, breathing tactical organism that adapted in real time. Sarah's background in geospatial intelligence transformed their defensive position. She wasn't just spotting targets. She was creating a 3-dimensional tactical map that predicted potential enemy movements with uncanny accuracy. Potential breakthrough attempt, she called out. Northwestern approach. 2 armored vehicles. Estimated arrival, 6 minutes. Jack's response was already in motion. Repositioning. Selecting. Specific ammunition types. Creating a defensive layer that would transform the incoming assault into a fatal funnel. The mountains outside continued their silent vigil. Witnesses to humanity's endless conflict. But today, they would record something different. A story of unexpected partnership, of survival redefined, of tactical brilliance that emerged from the most unlikely combination. Sarah Martinez, Jack Rodriguez, a weapons maintenance specialist, a Navy SEAL, 2 individuals who would change the entire trajectory of this conflict. The real battle was just beginning. Survival had become an art form, and Jack Rodriguez and Sarah Martinez were its most unexpected artists. The next wave of assault came like a surgical strike, not a blind, chaotic attack, but a precision-engineered attempt to systematically dismantle the base's defensive capabilities. Sarah's computational mind transformed battlefield data into a living, breathing tactical algorithm. Each second became a complex mathematical equation where human survival was the only acceptable solution. Thermal signatures, she called out, her voice a razor-sharp instrument of tactical communication. 7 hostiles. Advanced thermal camouflage. Attempting to mask body heat signature. Jack processed the information with a veteran's instantaneous calculation. These weren't typical insurgents. The level of technological sophistication suggested something far more dangerous. State-sponsored intervention. Specialized training. A probing strike designed to test military response capabilities. The weapon's range had become more than a defensive position. It was now a critical nerve center that could potentially alter the entire engagement's trajectory. Sarah's hands moved with a precision that defied human limitation, selecting specialized ammunition, calculating wind drift to microscopic degrees, adjusting scope settings with computational accuracy. Incoming technical vehicles, she reported. 2 modified Toyota Helix, reinforced chassis, probable improvised explosive mounting. Northwestern approach, estimated time of contact, 3 minutes, 17 seconds. Jack's response was already in motion, not just a reaction, a carefully engineered tactical solution. Their partnership transcended traditional military doctrine. Jack saw Sarah not as a civilian contractor, but as a critical tactical asset whose mind was as dangerous as any weapon in their arsenal. The base around them was being systematically dismantled. Communication networks disrupted. Automated defense mechanisms targeted with surgical precision. This was more than an attack. This was a sophisticated military probe designed to expose and exploit vulnerabilities. Sarah's intelligence background transformed their defensive capabilities. She wasn't just spotting targets. She was creating a four-dimensional tactical map that predicted potential enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. "Anomaly in enemy approach," she muttered, her fingers dancing across tactical displays. Movement patterns suggest specialized urban warfare training. Potential ex-special forces operatives. Possibly multiple international origins. Jack understood immediately. This wasn't a simple insurgent attack. This was a complex, multi-layered military operation designed to test international military response capabilities. The mountains outside stood as silent witnesses. Geological monuments that had watched countless human conflicts, now observing another chapter in humanity's endless struggle. Ammunition became a critical calculation, not just quantity, but precise application. Each bullet was a mathematical solution to a complex survival equation. Sarah's mind worked like a supercomputer. Wind speed, atmospheric conditions, terrain complexity, enemy movement patterns, potential rescue timeline. Each variable processed simultaneously, creating a living tactical map that predicted potential outcomes with terrifying precision. 83% probability of breakthrough attempt within the next 12 minutes, she reported, her voice clinical, detached, a pure instrument of tactical analysis. Jack's response was already in motion, repositioning, creating defensive layers that would transform the incoming assault into a fatal funnel of destruction. Their defensive position wasn't just about survival. It was about creating a tactical ecosystem that could potentially turn the entire engagement. The insurgents had made a critical miscalculation. They assumed vulnerability. They didn't understand that within this base was a collection of warriors who redefined the very concept of resistance. Sarah's hands never trembled. Her eyes never wavered. In that moment, she became something more than her job description. A human weapon system that defied all traditional battlefield logic. Jack's respect grew with each passing minute. This wasn't about defending a base anymore. This was about proving that heroism has no predetermined script, no traditional boundaries. Another explosion rocked their position. Closer this time. "Eastern defensive line compromised," Sarah called out, her voice a precision instrument. "Recommend immediate tactical reposition." Jack was already moving, not just responding, anticipating, creating a defensive strategy that transformed their vulnerability into a potential killing field. The base's other defenders watched in a mixture of shock and admiration. A civilian contractor and a Navy SEAL, turning what should have been certain defeat into a potential victory. But this was more than victory. This was survival reimagined. A testament to human adaptability, to unexpected partnership, to the extraordinary that emerges when conventional boundaries dissolve. Sarah Martinez and Jack Rodriguez. A weapons maintenance specialist. A Navy SEAL. Two individuals who would change the entire trajectory of this conflict. The real battle was just beginning, and they were its most unexpected architects. Time became a fluid concept, measured not in minutes or seconds, but in tactical breaths, survival calculations, potential outcomes. Jack Rodriguez understood something fundamental in that moment. This was no longer just a battle. This was a complex system of human survival, where every decision existed in a quantum state of potential destruction and preservation. Sarah's computational mind had transformed their defensive position into a living, breathing tactical organism. She wasn't just analyzing data. She was creating a predictive model of human conflict that defied traditional military doctrine. "Incoming drone signatures," she called out, her voice a precision instrument of tactical communication. "Chinese manufactured. Quadcopter. Probable reconnaissance configuration. Thermal imaging capabilities. Attempting to map our defensive positioning." Jack's response was instantaneous. Not a reaction. A calculated solution that existed several moves ahead of the current tactical situation. The base around them was more than a military installation now. It was a complex ecosystem under surgical attack. Communication networks surgically disrupted. Defensive mechanisms targeted with a level of precision that suggested something far beyond typical insurgent capabilities. Sarah's analysis went deeper than surface-level tactical assessment. Pattern recognition indicates multi-stage assault, she reported, her fingers dancing across tactical displays with computational efficiency. Initial probe designed to map defensive capabilities. Secondary assault will target specific vulnerabilities identified in first wave. Jack processed the information with a veteran's instantaneous calculation. These weren't random fighters. This was a sophisticated military operation designed to test international defensive capabilities. Their partnership had become something extraordinary. Jack saw Sarah not as a civilian contractor, but as a critical tactical asset whose mind was a weapon more dangerous than any rifle in their arsenal. The mountains outside continued their silent vigil, geological witnesses to humanity's endless dance of conflict and survival. Ammunition became more than metal and gunpowder. Each round was a mathematical solution to a complex survival equation. Precision engineered, calculated with microscopic accuracy. Sarah's mind worked like an advanced artificial intelligence. Wind speed, atmospheric conditions, terrain complexity, enemy movement patterns, potential rescue timeline. Each variable processed simultaneously, creating a living tactical map that predicted potential outcomes with terrifying precision. 92% probability of coordinated breakthrough attempt, she reported, her voice clinical, detached, a pure instrument of tactical analysis. Jack's response was already in motion, repositioning, creating defensive layers that would transform the incoming assault into a fatal funnel of mathematical destruction. The insurgents had made a critical miscalculation. They assumed vulnerability. They didn't understand that within this base was a collection of warriors who had transcended traditional combat limitations. Sarah's tactical background wasn't just military intelligence. It was a complex system of predictive modeling that transformed battlefield data into survival strategies. Advanced thermal masking on enemy combatants, she called out, suggests state-of-the-art technological intervention. Possibly experimental military technology, not yet documented in standard intelligence reports. Jack understood the implications immediately. This was more than a local conflict. This was a test, a probe of international military capabilities. Their defensive position had become a critical nerve center, not just protecting a base, but potentially providing crucial intelligence about a sophisticated military operation. Another explosion rocked their position, but this time they were prepared. Redirecting automated defense systems, Sarah reported. Her hands moved with a precision that bordered on machine-like efficiency, creating cascading defensive matrix, turning their technological advantage into a potential vulnerability. The other base defenders watched in a mixture of shock and admiration. A civilian contractor and a Navy SEAL were turning certain defeat into a potential victory through sheer computational brilliance. Jack's respect for Sarah grew with each passing minute. This wasn't about defending a base anymore. This was about redefining the very concept of human tactical response. Smoke billowed. Explosions created choreographed points of destruction. But within the chaos, a different kind of warfare was being waged. A war of computational precision. of unexpected partnership. Sarah's hands never trembled. Her eyes never wavered. She had become something more than her job description. A human weapon system that defied all traditional battlefield logic. The insurgents had planned a massacre. Instead, they found a defensive system that transformed their sophisticated attack into a potential fatal mistake. Redirecting drone surveillance, Sarah called out, creating false thermal signatures. Computational camouflage. Jack was already moving, not just responding, anticipating, creating a defensive strategy that turned their apparent vulnerability into a potential killing field. This was more than survival. This was survival reimagined, a testament to human adaptability, to unexpected partnership, to the extraordinary that emerges when conventional boundaries dissolve. Sarah Martinez and Jack Rodriguez, a weapons maintenance specialist, a Navy SEAL, two individuals who would change the entire trajectory of this conflict. The real battle was just beginning, and they were its most unexpected architects. Survival was no longer just about staying alive. It was about becoming something more. Silence descended like a heavy curtain. The aftermath of battle was never clean, never simple. It was a complex tapestry of survival, loss, and unexpected triumph. Military investigators would spend months trying to unravel the extraordinary events of that day. How two individuals, a Navy SEAL and a civilian contractor, had transformed what should have been a catastrophic defeat into a defining moment of tactical brilliance. Sarah Martinez sat in the debriefing room, her hands still carrying the muscle memory of combat. The weapons she had maintained for years had become more than tools. They were extensions of a survival strategy that defied conventional military doctrine. Jack Rodriguez stood nearby, his presence a testament to the thin line between standard military protocol and extraordinary human capability. The preliminary report was nothing short of extraordinary. 73 confirmed enemy casualties, 3 destroyed technical vehicles, multiple advanced reconnaissance drones neutralized, a sophisticated multi-stage assault completely dismantled, and at the center of it all, Sarah and Jack. Your tactical response was unprecedented, Colonel. Marcus Reyes began, his voice a mixture of professional assessment and barely concealed admiration. The computational approach to defensive strategy is something we've never seen before. Sarah's mind was still processing. Not the accolades, the tactical complexity of what had transpired. The insurgent attack had been more than a simple military engagement. It was a sophisticated probe, a test of international military capabilities that had been comprehensively defeated by an unexpected partnership. Jack understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just about defending a base. This was about demonstrating a new paradigm of military response. The drone interception technique, one investigator noted, reviewing the tactical footage, is something that will require complete reevaluation of our current defensive protocols. Sarah's background in intelligence and computational analysis had transformed their defensive position into something beyond traditional military thinking. She had created a living, breathing tactical ecosystem that predicted and neutralized threats with terrifying precision. The mountain base told a story of survival that defied conventional understanding. Bullet-riddled walls, destroyed vehicles, evidence of a battle that should have resulted in complete devastation. Instead, they had turned the tide. Your thermal masking counter-strategy, another investigator noted, reviewing the tactical data, effectively neutralized the most advanced reconnaissance technology we've seen in the field. Jack watched Sarah, not as a fellow soldier, but as a partner who had redefined the very concept of battlefield survival. The military had categories, classifications, ways of understanding human capability. Sarah defied all of them. A civilian contractor who had become a critical tactical asset a weapons maintenance specialist who had demonstrated computational skills that rivaled the most advanced military intelligence systems. The decorations would come later. But that wasn't what mattered. They had survived. They had transformed. They had become something more than their individual roles. Colonel Reyes continued the debrief, his voice a clinical instrument of military assessment. The computational approach to battlefield management, he noted, represents a fundamental shift in how we understand military engagement. Sarah's mind was already moving beyond the current moment, analyzing, processing, understanding the broader implications of their tactical response. Jack saw something in her that went beyond standard military assessment. A mind that didn't just respond to conflict. A mind that could predict and neutralize it before it fully emerged. The investigation would continue for months. Tactical analyses, computational studies, psychological assessments. But they knew the truth. Survival was an art form, and they had become its most unexpected artists. The base stood as a testament to their extraordinary partnership. Bullet-riddled walls, destroyed vehicles, evidence of a battle that should have resulted in complete devastation. Instead, they had turned the tide. Recommendation, Colonel Reyes said, looking directly at Sarah. Advanced tactical training. Immediate implementation. Jack watched, a slight smile crossing his face. He understood something fundamental about human capability that went beyond military doctrine. Some warriors are forged in fire. Some are born of unexpected partnerships. Sarah Martinez and Jack Rodriguez had become both. The mountains outside continued their silent vigil. Geological witnesses to a moment that would redefine military understanding. Survival was no longer just about staying alive. It was about becoming something more, something extraordinary. A testament to human potential, to unexpected partnership, to the extraordinary that emerges when conventional boundaries dissolve. 6 months after the battle, the world looked different. Sarah Martinez stood in the advanced tactical training facility, no longer a weapons maintenance contractor, but a newly commissioned tactical specialist. The weapons range that had once been her sanctuary now represented something far more profound, a crucible of transformation. Jack Rodriguez watched from the observation deck, a silent testament to the extraordinary journey they had shared. The military had changed. Their engagement had become a watershed moment in modern warfare. A demonstration that human potential transcended traditional boundaries of role, training, and expectation. Her hands moved across advanced tactical simulators with the same computational precision that had saved lives that day. But now, her skills were being systematically developed, refined into a weapon more dangerous than any rifle. Computational warfare is no longer a theoretical concept, her primary instructor noted during a classified briefing. It's a living, breathing tactical ecosystem that Ms. Martinez has effectively demonstrated. The mountains that had witnessed their original battle now seemed like distant memories. Sarah had become something entirely new, a hybrid warrior that defied traditional military categorization. Her background in intelligence, her computational skills, her ability to transform data into survival strategies, these were no longer unexpected advantages. They were now considered critical components of modern military capability. Jack understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just about individual achievement. This was about reimagining human potential in the face of extreme challenge. Classified reports told a story beyond simple military engagement. 73 enemy combatants. Neutralized 3 advanced reconnaissance drones completely disabled. A sophisticated multi-stage assault comprehensively dismantled. But numbers told only a fraction of the story. What had truly emerged was a new understanding of human capability, of partnership, of survival reimagined. Sarah's daily training was nothing like traditional military preparation. advanced computational modeling, tactical prediction algorithms, psychological resilience training that pushed the boundaries of human adaptability. Your ability to create living tactical ecosystems, her primary instructor explained, represents a fundamental shift in how we understand military engagement. Jack visited periodically, not as an instructor, not as a superior, but as a partner who understood something fundamental about human potential. The weapons she had once maintained had become metaphors, tools of maintenance transformed into instruments of survival, of computational brilliance. Her mind worked like an advanced artificial intelligence, processing multiple variables simultaneously, creating predictive models that transformed potential threats into neutralized possibilities. The military saw her as a weapon. Jack saw her as something more, a living demonstration of human potential, of unexpected partnership, of survival, reimagined. The classified training facility became her new battlefield, not a place of physical conflict, but a crucible of computational warfare, of human potential pushed to its absolute limits. Her fellow trainees watched in a mixture of awe and intimidation. Someone who had transformed from a weapons maintenance specialist to a critical tactical asset challenged every traditional understanding of military roles. Jack's recommendations had been unequivocal. She doesn't just respond to tactical situations, he had told military leadership. She predicts and neutralizes them before they fully emerge. The mountains outside continued their silent vigil, geological witnesses to a transformation that would reshape military understanding. Sarah's computational skills had become legendary within classified circles. Not just her ability to process information, but her capacity to create tactical ecosystems that transformed potential threats into neutralized possibilities. Computational warfare is no longer about technology, her primary instructor would explain. It's about human potential, about the extraordinary that emerges when we push beyond traditional boundaries. Jack watched her progress with a sense of profound pride. Not the pride of a superior officer, but of a partner who had witnessed something extraordinary emerge from the crucible of extreme challenge. The base where they had first encountered each other stood as a monument, not to destruction, but to transformation. Sarah Martinez was no longer just a weapons maintenance specialist. She had become a living weapon, a computational warrior, a demonstration of human potential that defied traditional understanding. Her journey wasn't just about survival. It was about becoming something more, something extraordinary. A testament to the human spirit, to unexpected partnerships, to the extraordinary that emerges when conventional boundaries dissolve. The mountains continued to watch, silent, waiting, bearing witness to a transformation that would reshape our understanding of human potential, of survival, of partnership, of the extraordinary that lives within us all.